Hey everyone, thank you for joining us. We are joined by Otis Wiley from the This is Sparta MSU podcast today. Talk a little bit about MSU's basketball run here, talk a little bit about the close of the football season, but since it's the most recent thing, we'll talk about the Notre Dame game first here, Otis. So State had a long trip out west, played Oregon, played Alabama, and then finished up with Portland, and then traveled back here to the Midwest and had another tough road game against Notre Dame. Ended up losing 70-52. But Otis, what did you see in the basketball court last night?
Yeah, Andrew, thanks for having me again this week. When I was watching the game, you think about the travel schedule that the Spartan basketball had to go through. We go over to Oregon to the Phil Knight Invitational, and the gauntlet of competition that, we played. Alabama was a tough feat to take on, and then, you battled through and win against Oregon, and then, you were closing out that Portland game, and the lead was good, and then you kind of had them battle back, and we only won by one. But you gotta think about the injuries that we're dealing with, and so that game there was a high intense game, knowing that Notre Dame was coming into the ACC Big Ten Challenge, and it's a ranked team, and so when you got home advantage, there's a lot of things you got to battle through, and when you don't have a full roster in the depth, you either sink or swim when it comes to the guys on the court. And so you read some of the Izzo's press conference and post game, and understanding that fatigue is not what they're leaning on as the excuse. It's really the small details of getting back on defense, because defense does win championships and wins games. And so we lost to a Notre Dame team that Coach Mike Bray only had 6 guys on a rotation. And so just it's probably the energy, matching the energy. And when they came out straight out the gate, firing off at the 3-point shots in the arc there, you can't really win against that when they're on target. And the ball was going in freely for them versus us. We were getting shots, but they just weren't falling our way.
I mean, that just happens in basketball sometimes. And like what you said about Izzo, that's why he's been able to do this so successfully for so long, is he holds his guys accountable. He doesn't take those excuses. Notre Dame had 6 guys. Michigan State had, 7.5 guys. But with this team, you see quickly when a Malik Hall or Jaden Akins goes down, they just lose all versatility. So guys, like Hauser, when he goes out to the bench, well, suddenly you have 2 big guys out there. You just lose a lot of flexibility. But I think long term, this team will still be okay. But what are you thinking? Do you think they'll get past this rough patch and eventually turn the ship around?
Oh, listen, man, and Izzo we trust. I have no qualms or issues with what transpired. Obviously, you want to win them all. Anybody that steps on the court or any competitive field wants to win the game. But, we will let the chips fall where they may, which is kind of what my favorite saying is, that we'll learn from it, and we'll be ready for Sunday when we open up at the Breslin with the Big Ten conference with Northwestern.
Absolutely. A lot of basketball ahead, but there's not a lot of left to play is football. Michigan State wrapped up the season on Saturday against Penn State. A disappointing game in a lot of ways. 35-16 was the final. The Spartans kind of were in that game at times, but just kind of perfectly summed up this season. But what is your takeaway from the Penn State game, and how do you not let this ruin all the momentum that Mel Tucker had coming into this offseason?
Yeah, I think we started to similar to the issues what happened at the basketball game yesterday. They got out, further out with the kind of momentum of starting the game off hot, and we battled through, with that one field goal to end the half, and then we started to catch our momentum when it came to offense, and defense start to play complementary both sides of the ball. But then you start to get some self-inflicting wounds, with some turnovers, and when you saw that, we had the momentum kind of shift to our way when we were driving, and we were down, what it was 24-16 or 21-16. And, with the Jaden Reed fumble, that they got the ball back in in their territory. It was pretty tough to kind of battle through in there, especially in Happy Valley, which I don't know, Andrew, if you've been to Happy Valley, but that's a environment that you have the fans as kind of the 12th man-esque feel. And so you got to truly play carefree football, but also mistake-free football in order to win a game in Happy Valley. So, Mel Tucker's season, Coach Tucker's season, yes, it's not what we thought it would be, and obviously them being internal, that's not what the product that they wanted to put out there for the season. But we learned a lot about our squad. We learned a lot about going through adversity, persevering through that, and right now you're seeing. Hopefully, maybe there's some opportunity this Sunday that we do get a bowl invite. But it's one of those things, kind of turning the page and seeing how we make sure we have guys ready for next season.
Yeah, so what do you think went wrong? Because it seemed like it was a bunch of small things building to one big, not so great season. But what specifically would you point to, besides, I guess, the injuries? That's the obvious one. But besides the injuries, what do you think went wrong this year?
Yeah, I can't really pinpoint because, this is the same squad, same type of players that we saw play for us 2 years ago and had a great ending to the Peach Bowl. And so same coaching staff, same high profile players. And I just feel like there was a little bit of I say connectivity or, a closeness of truly putting a product out there that was consistent for 4 quarters. It took us a while to truly put a game together that all 4 quarters. I think that Wisconsin game was kind of a true testament of putting a complete game together, even when it was overtime. And, that's where you can see where if we put it together, the product is always great. It's always a success. And so I can't really pinpoint. Injuries does still take a huge chunk out of there, man. When you think about losing 3 solid defensive starters to game 1 when you got Jacob Slade, you got Xavier Henderson, you got Darius Snow. And, I mentioned this earlier in our podcast season, a few episodes when we started out was, you fail to realize the amount of production points, the amount of production that we lost with Xavier Henderson and Darius Snow, but also Jacob Slade and the pressure. And then when you see those 2 guys come back, you saw a difference in our defense. And then on the offensive side, we just never could really establish a consistent run game. And, without a run game, you can't really open up the passing game because you need a complementary, balanced attack. And it took us a while. You saw, Indiana, we had a committee that, we did some good things on the ground. But you need every game, you need a pound, green pound type of running back consistency, and it also allows Peyton Thorne to relax back there.
How alarming was that Indiana game for you? Because, like you said, a lot of those guys were back for that game. How do you guys clean, or how do they clean up stuff like that? Because that's the kind of stuff that when Mark D'Antonio came in, Michigan State stopped losing games like that. How do they clean that type of stuff up going forward?
Yeah, I mean, I remember my junior year when Coach D's first year came into, the games we lost were, total points of about 10 points, right? And so, you look at their schedule and you look at, the teams that you're supposed to say, you're not always supposed to win a game, but you look at the games on your schedule and say, we absolutely needed to win these games. Indiana was a game that we should have won and needed to win in order to become bowl eligible. And so, it's all about complementary football. And that's on all phases of the game. And that's special teams, when we needed them the most, didn't come up to deliver. And so you see it in the pros as well, where a quarterback drives down to the field, gets us into position, does his job, and then you have the icing on the cake where the kicker comes in and puts it in the uprights. And, we had those mishaps, and, it just wasn't our year. But, this is a thing that when we're down one season, Spartans always respond and have an outstanding season after this. So there's no issues to raise the alarm. I don't think we need to sound the alarm on anything that we have going right now. We're in a perfect place to make sure we build a dynasty and build up our current roster and add in some new people coming in.
All right, one more question before I let you go here. Do you anticipate any type of changes this offseason, whether that's, workouts, coaching staff, quarterback, any major changes this offseason?
It's tough to say that right now, as you got, this next week and this month is really a pivotal month for our program and every program across the country as you start to look at roster management and, guys that, have that other extra year of COVID year from eligibility, and you see guys going to, declaring for the NFL draft. And, we've only had one player hit the transfer portal, and so you'll see it kind of list start to go out the rest of this month, and it's tough to really truly pinpoint what changes will happen until it happens, really, to be honest with you. So I'm not internal there, so I can't fully give you the spill the beans or even know what to expect. But from a player's perspective, you always have to reset, level set, and understand what we did good, what was bad, and what was indifferent, and what can we do to improve for next season. And off season is truly where you do all that. So I know our sports science crew, our strength conditioning crew is going to get to it, and we're going to get better in the off season and build some team chemistry, and we'll be ready for whatever comes our way.
All right, Otis, tell us a little bit about your podcast. We got the link in the Facebook post here, but tell us a little bit about the podcast and the rest of episodes this week.
Yeah, we did a recap of Penn State this week, and also kind of put a bow on the end of the season. But as you know, Andrew, season never ends with football, and it's consistently 365 days a year where we're now kind of talking about some recruiting and sharing and highlighting our guys who had some big honors for the conference, and now we're just kind of start to kind of play it by ear, but also plan when we deliver news and discuss roster management and what's new faces coming into Spartan Nation, what's our freshman class coming in. And so you'll expect that, leading into this off season, and also highlighting some of our other sports with our women's basketball team, men's basketball team. Our hockey team is fire on fire right now and in year one. And I think that's not getting as much as notice as it should be with Coach Nightingale and what he's doing over there at MUN with the hockey team. And so you'll see some different segments that we'll be highlighting that's going to highlight the MSU athletics and our sports teams and our student athletes. And so looking forward to some great content, continuously keeping the fire going in the off season, and always stay tuned to This is Spartan MSU podcast.
All right, Otis, thanks so much for joining us, man, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thank you, Andrew. Appreciate you, man.